Hello students, welcome to Turito live classes. Myself A. Swagat. Today in this particular session, we are going to understand about the structural and functional unit of kidney. So in this particular session, I am going to show you how exactly the kidneys are functioning at the grassroots level. That means we will be looking at the building blocks of the kidney and how do they function. So before we do that, we will be looking into the topics what we have already finished in the previous session. So let us recollect here. So in the previous session, we looked at the structure of the human excretory system. So where we actually looked at a pair of kidney, a pair of ureters and a bag-like structure called ureter, urinary bladder following by urethra. So these were the parts what we have seen in the previous session, and now we looked at the dimensional and morphological analysis of the kidney, like the size of the kidney and how does it appear from the external view. That is what we did in the previous session, followed by the detailed internal structure exploration. That is what we did, that is the anatomical structure of the kidney, following which we also understood these parts, that is ureter, urinary bladder and urethra. So here we had one pair of ureter. After that we looked into it, we had the briefing on structural and functional unit of kidney, where I just shown you how does the structural and functional unit of kidney would look like. So if any one of you remember, can you just give me a name? There is a single name for the structural and functional unit of kidney. What do you call the structural and functional unit of kidney as? Correct, it is quite simple. As you have stated here, it is nephron. Okay, that is what we will be doing here. Following which we did the functioning of the accessory excretory organs, like there are other organs apart from the kidneys functioning in order to remove the waste from the body. So we call those organs as accessory excretory organs. So we understood that they are the organs which are working in parallel with the main excretory organs, that is kidney, to flush out the waste from the body. So we did these topics in the previous session, and in this particular session what we are going to do, that is what is all our objectives. So we will be looking into those objectives. We will be recalling the excretory system of the human beings. So the same topics, that is the same images, would be used here to understand that, following which we will review the anatomy of the human beings, anatomy of the human kidneys, I am sorry. So we will look into the labelings and of the kidneys, or how it is arranged internally, following which it is the nephron, the structural and functional unit of kidney. So we will be having a detailed look at the labeled structure of the nephron, and we will also understand in the upcoming slides like how does this nephron functions depending on each part, how it is arranged, and then we will understand the structural analysis of the nephron, following which we will try to classify the nephrons, and we will understand that classification, why and how they are classified. So let us begin with this. So that is human excretory system. So here you would be seeing the excretory system of humans consists of the labelings. If you can get me in your chat box, children, what are the different labelings we find in the human excretory system? You can put in the chat box, children. Okay. So now we are going to look at the names here. So I will be showing you the names here on the screen, and I see still students are dropping in the responses. If you, okay, fine. So I got your responses here in your chat box, and just look at the screen what you have, just try to cross check it and try to verify your responses. So first thing is, we get to have a pair of kidneys having the bean shaped structure like this, right? So this is how the kidneys would look like, following which we had a pair of ureters. Okay, so we would have them like this. okay, and a urinary bladder. So, we looked at kidneys and we looked at ureters and the urinary bladder, okay, following by a urethra. So, this is what is urethra is. So, this is a layman structure, like how we can draw in simple terms. So, that is how the kidney would look like and the human excretory system, okay, for our understanding. Okay. Let us move forward and have some more understanding of it. So, we will use several images to understand and recall what we have already finished in the previous session. Fine, let us see here. So, as I have just mentioned here, we have these labelings here on the screen. Okay. So, you can observe here carefully. So, here, so this is how the kidney would look like. Okay. This is the kidney and we have a pair of kidney 1 and 2. And do you know the reason why the right kidney is, its arrangement, you see, looking at the height here, okay, there is a lot of gap you can see here, right. So, why do you think it is there like that? There is a difference in the size and the arrangement of the kidneys, the orientation. So, one is down, the other one is up, that is the left side kidney was actually placed above, bit above than the right side kidney. Okay, great. So, I see many of you responding. Okay. That is because of the position of the liver, okay, shape of the liver, what else? Size of the liver. Position, shape and size of the liver makes this right handed kidney bit placed below the alignment of the left hand kidney, right. So, that is the reason why we have this kind of arrangement. Okay. So, now you see this part, this tube which is running from the kidney to the bladder, you can see that is what is ureter. The same stands here also, you can have a clear look like this. Okay, that is how it is. Following which we have a sac like structure here, that is what is bladder. Instead, you are supposed to mention it as urinary bladder, okay, and following by the opening known as urethra. So, this is the structure what you have earlier seen, okay, and we are trying to recall whatever we have understood. So, there is a need to recall the topics what we have already finished. Now, I want you to observe further. If you see here, I would like to highlight and show you. So, these are kidneys, okay, and you get to see the presence of the arteries. There is the red color artery coming out from it and there is a vein coming out of it. Can you see that? That is actually the renal artery, the red color one, okay, and the blue color one what you see is actually the renal vein. So, our game is not only to have the kidneys, what you see here is even the passage of the respective arteries and veins, or in other words, in shortly what I am responding here is for about blood vessels. So, when it comes to those blood vessels, we need to understand that. Okay. So, it is these blood vessels you see there, it is having the renal vein and the renal artery accordingly, and we can understand them. So, fine. So, this is what we have, just to recall what we have done earlier. Let us move forward to see something else. So, it is the same kidney, we are trying to understand what do we have inside it, that is anatomy of the kidney. So, let us have a look here carefully. So, when you see there are major parts of the kidney, I want you to understand, okay, it is fine. Okay. So, here you see, let us begin with this. Okay. So, this is the renal nerve entering inside the kidney. So, even every organ, every body part has the nerves arranged in them. That is how you and me sense the slightest stimuli received from the environment. Let it be the stimuli from the living organism or the stimuli from the non-living entity. We are sensing it means every part of our body is innervated with nerves. Same is with the kidneys also, they are also innervated with nerves. Fine. So, if you observe here carefully, we have several parts, especially these parts are actually known as, they are having more or less like the shape of a pyramids. Okay. I am just trying to draw the outline here to make you understand. So, you see here they are having the similar structure like that of the kidneys, pyramids. Since they are located in the kidney, we call them as renal pyramids. Okay. So, I would like to show you here. So, here these are known as pyramids and they are basically renal pyramids. Fine. Once done, what I want you to understand now is okay. Now, that was all about renal pyramid. Next, if you observe carefully, there are spaces between these. Okay. They are actually known as renal columns. So, you can see here it is clearly mentioned they are renal column. Okay. And there is one more space left out, this region, okay, is actually known as the cortex. Cortex is far away from the renal pyramids. Okay. That is the structure what you can see, right. Fine. Now, what you can have to understand here is there are parts here mentioned differently. The region which is very close to the minor calyx, that is minor calyx, this is very close to the pyramid. Minor calyx is the yellowish region you see here, which is quite close to the renal pyramids, that is minor calyx. And if you just go beyond that, for example, if you choose the area region which is yellowish in color somewhere here, let us say like this whole big region, okay, you can understand that as the major calyx. Okay. And this region which is just entering here is referred as renal pelvis. So, this is just a recap what we are having based on the previous discussion we had. Okay. Now, this is what is the anatomy of the kidney. So, internally we have several pyramids like this located, and internally you have a location called cortex, and inside the pyramid we call that region as medulla, and all these pyramids, cortex and everything is actually confined by a layer. Okay. It is actually kind of and it is confined with a system, that is what is referred here as capsule. Okay. Now, this you are supposed to understand, because when you exactly know where exactly the nephron is located, then you are supposed to remember few labelings, starting with medulla. You have to remember the cortex. See, this is what is cortex, the external region, okay, quite far from the pyramid is known as cortex, and inside the pyramids you will find the presence of the medulla, and then we have the major calyx and the minor calyx. Minor calyx is the yellowish region quite close to the pyramid. Okay. Major calyx is the same region, it is which is quite far from the pyramid. Okay. Fine. Let us move forward and see what else we have. It is a very same kidney you are looking here. So, this is the kidney how it is located, and when you try to enlarge it, you get to have this particular view. So, we just saw this region how it is located. Now, in each of the pyramid you will get to see the arrangement of the nephrons. Can you see this? These are the nephrons arranged here. Okay. So, this arrangement of the nephron inside is different, and the same nephron, that is the unit of the functional unit of kidney, you will find even this region at cortex region also you will find the presence of the nephron. Okay. Even in the region of this minor calyx and major calyx you will find the presence of the nephron. Now, that is what brings the different types of nephron depending on the location. If it is in the medulla, it is of different type. If it is in the cortex, the nephron would be different. If it is in the minor or major calyx, the nephron would be different. Now, this is how it is. Now, exactly want to see that is again inside the pyramids, you see how it is arranged. So, inside the pyramid, it means we are trying to understand this is what is pyramid, and outside that you would see the presence of the cortex. Now, medulla is belonging to the only the pyramid, and this is the region that is cortex. So, it starts from there. So, here also you will find the nephrons, and even here you will find the nephrons. So, hope you understood that inside the pyramid we have nephrons, outside the pyramid, that is cortex, we have the nephrons. Even at the minor and major calyx we will find the presence of the nephrons. So, at different regions we have nephrons, and they are of different types, which you will be understanding in this particular session. Fine. So, let us move forward and see some more things. This is what is the structural and functional unit of kidney, that is nephron. Understood? So, this is how it is looking like. So, this is a single unit, it is a single unit which is the structural and functional entity of the kidney. Now, you see here, hope you understood now. So, there is a long tubular structure. So, every branch what it is showing here, okay, I will try to draw it here something to show you. So, every branch you see here, that is actually the elongated inside the medulla, which is the cortex, sorry, which is the pyramid, that is only this region is our actually pyramid, and this is the outside the pyramid you will find there is one more region called cortex. So, inside the cortex you will find the nephrons also, even in the medulla you will find the nephron, and even in the minor and major calyx, that is somewhere here, after this, here also you will find the presence of the nephrons. So, if you look here, one system, let us have a look at this particular system. If you wish to have a look at it, that would look like this. So, that is why we are here to understand that. Fine, I would like to show you some more labelings. So, let us start here. This structure you are looking at is innervated with the arteries and veins again. So, it is clearly evident, red is artery and the blue one is vein, and when they both form a network, that leads to the formation of the capillaries. Now, this whole system, that blue and red in color, is actually the vasa recta. So, it is passing through the unit, the yellow color tube here you can see, hopefully, right. So, yellow cream color tube, you can see that, that is what I am referring here. So, when you look here, you will understand that that is the way how it is arranged. Okay, fine. So, let us see some more labelings. So, this whole system is known as Bowman's capsule. So, this structure is Bowman's capsule. It is named after the scientist Bowman. Okay. Now, that capsule holds a network of artery, only the network of artery, that is you see here. The artery which is entering inside the Bowman's capsule is efferent artery or efferent arteriole, and you see there is one more artery which is just coming out from the Bowman's capsule, that is efferent arteriole. The structure is like that. Now, that network of the arteriole is inside a capsule like structure known as Bowman's capsule. Now, that network which is present inside the Bowman's capsule is named as glomerulus. This glomerulus inside this Bowman's capsule, it is present inside this whole network, is the glomerulus, and that is where our story exactly begins. So, we will understand that. So, in this particular session we are exclusively dealing with what all are these labelings, what is the structure, that is nephron, and why we have so many labelings and what do they do. In short, we are going to understand in this particular session, following which in the upcoming session we are going to understand about how exactly this structure, okay, helps in formation of urine. That is what will be our objective for the next upcoming session. Fine. So, here you see there is a limb here, okay. From the Bowman's capsule there is a structure coming out, and till here we call that structure as PCT. So, you see this proximal convoluted tubule. So, if you get the expansion, if someone is asking you to expand the abbreviation PCT, okay, you say that is proximal convoluted tubule, proximal convoluted tubule, because this is quite close to the, there is a U-shaped loop, and you see that. Let us name here point A to point B. So, point A to point B, it forms either U-shaped or a hairpin shaped structure. So, it is forming a U or a hairpin shaped structure. That structure is known as Henle's loop or loop of Henle. Henle's loop or loop of Henle. Now, because you see it is having two parts, so you see depending on the movement of the substance, it is named descending limb of loop of Henle, that is this one will be the descending limb of the loop of Henle. So, I will show you. So, this part, okay, inside this the substance or the fluid would move in this direction. So, it is known as descending limb of loop of Henle, and the other one is ascending limb of loop of Henle. That means, it is going like this, the substance would, so substance inside the tube would pass in this direction. I am just showing you that, nothing else. So, then this limb is known as ascending limb of Henle, following which that limb further continues and forms another limb, it is going close to a long tube here, isn't it? So, from here, so I said earlier it is A and this is B, that is what I said, right. So, let us say from here now, okay, X, and let us say this is Y. From X to Y, that tubule is known as distal convoluted tubule, also referred as DCT. Hope you are clear with that. Okay. That tubule is known as distal convoluted tubule. Okay. Following which we have a long tube, right, straight erect tube. Okay. That tube is known as collecting duct. Okay. So, this is in short about the structure of the nephron, and I have to tell you this is one structure, okay, and through it every minute 125 ml of the substance passes through it. So, you can imagine per day how many mLs or milliliters of substances pass through it, so much, right. That makes as a whole around 180 liters of the fluid passes through it. Now, you might be having so many questions in your head, so that will be answered later, I know, okay, we will answer that later. Now, this nephron what you are looking at, okay, so we have 1 million nephron in each kidney, that is I am saying that in each kidney we have each kidney we have 1 million nephron, 1 million nephron in the right kidney, 1 million nephron in the left kidney. So, 1 million stands for so that is the count. So, 1 million stands for 10 lakhs, like that we have in total 20 lakhs of nephrons, just over or 20 lakhs of nephrons we will be having in our both the kidneys. So, 1 in 10, the other one is 10 lakhs. So, 20 lakhs, that is 2 million. Fine. Let us move forward and we will understand each and every labeling here, okay, what it does and why we need it. Okay. Fine, let us begin here. So, here when you see carefully, you will get to know, okay, fine. So, each kidney has nearly 1 million complex tubular structures called nephrons. Okay. So, because of them only our structure, that is the kidneys, will function. Okay. So, there are two parts, one is renal corpuscle, the other part is renal tubule. Okay. The very same renal corpuscle is also known as Malpighian corpuscle. Now, here I will show you in this particular image. Okay, this part, okay, which I am encircling with green color, is the renal corpuscle or Malpighian corpuscle. So, that is known as renal corpuscle, right, renal corpuscle or Malpighian corpuscle. This part is renal corpuscle. Fine. Next, so the glomerulus, that is inside the Bowman's capsule, okay, or inside the renal corpuscle, you have seen there was a network of arteriole. Afferent arteriole was entering inside the Bowman's capsule, it forms a network inside the Bowman's capsule, and one more arteriole was coming out of that Bowman's capsule. That network inside the Bowman's capsule is known as glomerulus, is formed by the afferent renal artery, a fine branch of the renal artery, and blood from the glomerulus is carried away by an efferent renal arteriole of a lesser diameter. Now, this is how it is arranged inside it. Okay. Now, that is the structure we need it. Okay. Now, so that is what was glomerular and we understood that. Following which I have shown you the efferent arteriole emerging from the glomerulus forms a fine capillary network around the renal tubule called tubular capillaries. So, the one which is actually it emerging from the glomerulus forms a fine capillary network around the renal tubule called the tubular capillaries. That means, that network which is forming inside, including the ascending and descending loop of Henle, that is what is referred here as tubular capillaries. So, I am referring to, there was a U-shaped network, and inside which we saw there was a network of, there was a network, isn't it? It was forming like this, vasa recta, we refer it as vasa recta. It is referring to that vasa recta forms a network as peritubulary capillaries. And next, you see a minute network runs parallel to the Henle's loop, and vasa recta are absent, highly reduced in cortical nephrons. Now, this presence or absence of the vasa recta is also depends, because we do not find the vasa recta in the case of cortical nephrons. Who will tell what are cortical nephrons? Cortical nephrons. Where can we see the presence of the cortical nephrons? It is quite simple. Some of you have already dropped in. We get to see the cortical nephrons in the cortex. Okay, that is where we see the presence of the cortex. Okay, so we need to understand that. Now, let us move forward. So, we see this is how the structure would formed here. Okay. So, again it is forming a network over here, that is what is tubular capillaries formed by the efferent arteriole, it was referring here, and this network which was formed here, that is actually from the vasa recta, right. So, that is what is vasa recta is all about, right. Let us move forward. The renal tubules continue further and form a highly coiled network called proximal convoluted tubule. So, you see, so this is what is the renal tubule, it continues further and it forms a tubular is a closed network like this, proximal convoluted tubule, PCT. Right. Then a hairpin shaped Henle's loop is the next part of the tubule, which has a descending and an ascending limb, that is, there is a structure like this. So, here this first loop which is going down, okay, that is ascending loop, okay, and there is another loop which is coming up, that is actually, I am sorry, okay, this one is going down. So, this is descending loop, and this one, since it is going up, we call it as ascending limb. So, descending limb plus ascending limb forms the loop of Henle. So, that is the arrangement we have here so far, right. Hope you understood that. Any questions by anyone? Okay. So, we see the proximal convoluted tubule, a hairpin shaped Henle's loop. So, when it is mentioned here hairpin shaped, it means it is quite clear that when you have the structure, that it is very closely associated, that is the limb, descending limb and the ascending limb are very closely associated. That is why it is referred here as hairpin shaped loop. Okay. So, after that we will see the ascending limb, okay, it continues with another highly coiled tubular region. That means, it is from the ascending limb you will get to see another highly coiled tubular structure, that is distal convoluted tubule, that is referred as DCT. Okay. Distal convoluted tubule. So, we need that tubule for formation. Okay. So, that is the continuation of the ascending limb of the loop of Henle. So, we are just trying to understand the structure and its labelings, that is what we are doing it here, okay, nothing more than that. Okay. Fine. So, hope you understood this. Let's move forward. So, you see, I was referring to this loop is actually the ascending limb of the loop of Henle. Ascending in the sense the substance inside this one would be going up, that means it is moving forward. The substance inside the loop would be travelling upwards. So, this limb is known as ascending limb of loop of Henle. So, that ascending limb would continue further and it forms a closed tubular network, that is referred here as distal convoluted tubule, DCT. That is what we are understanding. Okay. So, nothing more than that. Let us move forward. We see the structure of nephron, that is the DCTs of many nephrons open into a straight collecting duct. Okay, it opens up into a straight collecting duct, many of which converge and open into the renal pelvis, and that is what we have to understand. Now, that collecting duct, that long tube what you have seen, this one, this collecting duct continuously opens up like this. Okay. So, it is collecting opening into the renal pelvis through the medullary pyramids into the calyces. That means, you see there are three parts. You see it is present, this nephron is actually present inside the medulla, which is inside the pyramid, okay. And then you see it is opening into the renal pelvis, that means it goes out, okay. After coming out, what happens? You would see that it is passing through the pyramids, that is medullary part of the pyramid, and then it enters the calyces. Do you know calyces? The types of calyces we saw? Do you know it or not? Don't know? I will tell you. Calyces here it is referring to two of them, minor calyx, okay, and the other one is known as major calyx. So, there are two of them. So, combined together plural stands like this, calyces. So, that is what the plural would look like, that is these calyces we have. Okay, fine. Okay, next we have this. Okay. So, the Malpighian corpuscle, that is the renal corpuscle or the Malpighian corpuscle, both are same, and the PCT and DCT. So, that is a continuation now. Malpighian corpuscle, that the Bowman capsule, everything is arranged right, that is what is Malpighian corpuscle, followed by we have the PCT and the DCT of the nephron are situated in the cortical region of the kidney, that is at the cortex region of the kidney, whereas the loop of Henle dips into the medulla. That means, the nephron is arranged in such a way that the upper part of the nephron, which consists of the Malpighian corpuscle, proximal convoluted tubule and distal convoluted tubule are present in the cortex region, that is outside the pyramid, and the lower limb of the Henle's loop is present inside the pyramid, that is what is medulla present inside the pyramid. So, this nephrons arrangement is part of it is so somewhere here you see it is inside the medulla, okay, and from here this region is inside the cortex. So, that is what is said here, right. Next you see there are types of nephrons, as I said, see cortical nephrons and juxtamedullary nephrons. So, we have to understand them both. Okay. So, let us move forward. What are cortical nephrons? So, it is a microscopic structural and functional unit of kidney with a short loop of Henle. It is very short loop of Henle, okay, and it is present which penetrates only the outer renal medulla. That is the extreme part of the pyramid, that is where you will see that shortest loop, okay, you will see that extending towards the medulla. So, this is the prime striking character of the cortical nephron, which has a small loop of Henle. Next one is juxtamedullary nephron. Okay. Here the renal corpuscle is near the medulla and whose proximal convoluted tubule and associated loop occur deeper into the medulla than the cortical nephrons. So, here what happens, the loop is very short and it is just going to the outer part of the medulla, whereas in the juxtamedullary nephron what happens, the renal corpuscle, that is the Malpighian corpuscle or the Bowman's capsule what you see, where inside that arterioles were forming network, you will see that nephron would be present inside the medulla, that is inside the pyramid, okay. And there are PCT and the loop which you see, it is very deep in the medulla than the cortical nephron. So, that is the difference what you find between the cortical nephrons and the juxtamedullary nephrons. So, in most of the nephrons here loop of Henle is too short and extends only very little into the medulla, such nephrons are cortical nephrons, whereas the same thing is given, some nephrons the loop of Henle is very long and it runs deep into the medulla. These nephrons are juxtamedullary nephrons. So, juxtamedullary nephrons are running deep into the medulla, whereas the cortical nephrons are just passing to the outer part of the medulla, that is just the outer part of the pyramid structure. So, medulla are actually present inside the pyramids and these guys are having a short loop. Loop of Henle is very short in the case of cortical nephrons. That is not the case with juxtamedullary nephron, they have a very long loop of Henle. So, these are the striking differences between the cortical nephrons present in the cortex region juxtamedullary nephrons, they are seated deep inside the medulla. Medulla is a part inside the pyramid of the kidney, that is renal pyramids. Okay. So, fine. So, hope you understood this session. Now, let us recollect the topics what we have done so far. So, we recall the excretory system in the human beings based on the previous session, after which we reviewed the anatomy of the human kidneys, that is the different parts of the kidneys, following which we saw the nephron and the structural and the functional unit of kidneys, that is what the objective of this particular session. So, we analyzed its structures in detail, we understood the labeling and its parts, where they are located in the kidney, whether it is in the cortex region, whether it is in the medullary region, we try to understand that. After that, we classified the nephrons based on the juxtamedullary nephron and the cortical nephron. So, if a nephron is present or starting from the cortex region, we call that nephron as the cortical nephron, and if the nephron is starting from the medullary region, we call that as a juxtamedullary nephron, and that is having a longer loop of Henle, whereas cortical nephrons are not having the longer loop of Henle, right. So, hope you understood this session. So, I would like to wind up the session here, looking forward you to have an upcoming association with us. Thank you.